Hey guys, this is Frankie or Simply Imaginary People, and as some people have requested, I'm going to try and do a tutorial on how to make custom clothes for Sims 3. So the first thing you're going to need is Marvelous Designer 5, which is the version I use. And once you've opened it, you need to open the avatars that you've downloaded from Lubel Sims. So I'm going to go to Open Avatar, and I'm going to choose the child avatar, because I make child clothing. Right. So here you can see you've got the 3D window, where if you right click you can turn, and you've got the UV map window. So the first thing you're going to do is just click this button up here, and you can literally just draw a piece of clothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have a neck part, a shoulder part for the sleeve, then the body of my clothing, and the same on the other side. Once you can see, once I've created one, it pops up in the 3D window. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go click back here, you're going to right click and you're going to say copy, and then you're going to right click next to it and say symmetric paste. So you get the same piece but just flipped. Now the problem is, as you can see in the 3D window, we've got this side which is white, and if I turn it back you can see it has a grey side. So when you're making 3D objects, here is the face of a toddler, you can see it consists of these dots which are vertices, and they have like these triangles between them which are faces. So this is pretty much what your mesh will consist of. Now if I look at it from the front you can see it's all grey, but if I turn to the back you can see it's pretty much see-through, because faces only have one side. So this grey side here, Marvelous Designer, will actually be see-through. So what you need to do is you need to right click the back part and go to flip horizontally, and what you can do now is just click it normally and you can move it. So I'm going to move it to the back of my sim. Right, there we go. Now what I can do here with the avatars from Lubel Sims, I can click here and I can click here to get these dots. So if I click a piece, like I have this piece clicked, and I click a dot on the back, what it's going to do, it's going to wrap around there. So I want it a bit lower. So there we go. I can click the front piece, click a front dot, and it's going to wrap around the front. So that kind of makes it fit to the body. Now what I can do is I can sew it. So the sew button is here, this one. And what I can do is literally I'm going to sew the pieces together. So I want to sew this side to this part. And if you don't know where to sew, you can go here and you can literally just click on your, turn these dots off. Click on your outfit anywhere and you'll see this is where I clicked. So I need to sew this side to, and I'll click on this back part, this side. So I'm going to sew this side with the sew button to this side, and you'll see that they kind of get connected. And I also need to sew the other side, so I'll sew those pieces together. And you can see here in the 3D window I now get sewing lines. And then I need to sew the top parts together. So I'll sew these and I'll sew these together, and you need to make sure that the lines are straight and not crossed over. That just means that you've pointed this little sew button in the wrong direction. Right, now once I've sewed it, I can press this. This is simulate. You can also use the space bar on your keyboard. And what it does is it literally sews it together and puts it on the body. This is a very crude t-shirty thing. So now I'm just going to quickly show you how to make some sleeves. So I'm going to take this square button here. And sleeves always need to go in this direction, so long part downwards. Right, there you go, you can see my sleeve. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this button here, which is like the curve button, and I'm going to curve the top part up. And here where you can see on my sleevey bits, I'm going to curve these inwards. As you can see, if I do it on this side, it automatically does on this piece because they're still symmetric. So that makes it easier for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those blue dots on again. I'm going to click this sleeve, and I'm going to click one of the top arm buttons. Up, and there you go, it wraps around my arm. So now I can see the sleeve is a bit too long. So what I can do is I can click up here, I can click down, and I can just stretch this a bit shorter. And here I'm just going to move it down a bit. Right, so now I need to sew my sleeve somehow to my top. So what I'm going to do, once I have a curve up here, I'm going to right click, I'm going to press split, and I'm going to uniformly split this. So, as I can see here, I've got to sew this part, this corner, so this side, to this part, so up to this. So I'm going to go to sew, again, this side. I'm going to sew it to this. And if I now move it here a bit so you can see that it's now, the sew lines are along here. Right, now I'm going to sew the other side to this part. So sew this to this, and you can see the lines I'm making it. And obviously at the bottom I need to sew the sleeves together, so that side to that side. There we go, now I have simple crude sleeve. Now it's a bit wide at the bottom, so what I'm going to do is click here again, click these corner pieces and just bring them in a bit. There we go. Got a bit tight sleeve. So if you have like these dots where the body is clipping through, that might just be that your top's not wide enough. So I can just, pull these bits out a bit, make it a bit wider. There we go, it doesn't clip as much anymore. Make the bottom a bit wider maybe. Yeah, clips a bit less. You don't need to worry so much about clipping if it's like in the middle of a big fabric piece, because we'll be deleting the body under it later. So say I've finished, and I only want one sleeve, but I want this bit of the neck to go down further, but not so much further on the back, so I need to get rid of the symmetry, because if I use the curve button again and curve this down, it's going to curve both the back and the front, and I want the front to be a bit more curved. So what I can do is I can right click on the one piece, and using that one, right click, and I can say remove symmetry. So now they're no longer symmetrical, so I can see this is the front one, so I can just bend it down a bit further if I want to. There we go. Got myself a one arm top. Right, once I've done this, then what I can do is, if I say I like the sleeve, but it keeps moving every time I press this button, I can click a piece of fabric and I can go to 3D garment and I can press freeze. And that just means that if I mess around here, I can pull fabric and whatever, I can't move this piece anymore, which is good because I like what it looks like. What I can also do is if you have like a bow or a collar, you can press here on strengthen. That makes it a bit more, well, defies gravity a bit more. Right, then what's important are fabric types here. So I can add different types of fabric. So I can say I want my sleeve a different fabric. So I make a new fabric and I literally just drag that fabric onto the sleeve. And so I know which fabric is which. I usually like to click on them, click here on color and just, make it pink or something so that I know what I'm doing. Just got to unfreeze this so that I can see what I'm doing. See, now I've got pink. And what I can do is I can click here on fabric, and under presets I can pick like fabric presets, different ones for the different pieces now. And then if I press play again, it won't show it so much here, but if it's like a different piece of fabric, you can probably see big differences. So that's how you can play around a bit with how your fabric falls. Just go through all the fabric settings. If I make this bigger, there we go. And now if I click here again and go down to fabric types and I press maybe leather, you'll see it goes tighter and less wrinkly. And if I press this one, and it doesn't change much, or maybe this one, then you can see it just goes a bit more wrinkly. And if you go here and under detail, you've got all the fabric settings. You can just mess around with these. Okay, so that's pretty much a bit of the basics. What you can also do is here use this button to add dots. So you'll need a dot for each piece you want to sew, so these dots. And what I can do is I can add a dot to, say, the middle of this, around about the middle of here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one here, which is like where you can draw an internal image, and I'm going to draw an internal line. Double click at the bottom to make it work. And what I can do is I can say cut and sew, or just cut, and then I can like divide my fabric up into two. So that's like if I want 2 pieces of fabric. So that works pretty well. Right, so one of the main problems in Sims is that if I have my wonderful top here, is that look, you can see that it like literally lays on the butt. And the problem is if the sim has trousers on, the trousers are going to lay outside of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the simulation so that it doesn't move. And I'm going to delete the avatar. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Import Object. And I'm going to import an object that I made that I can share if people want it, which is literally the child avatar, but with lots of pants on it. So here you can see that, if I change the color of this, here you can see that the pants would totally clip through my object. Now all I do is I press simulate. I'm going to have to tug these out a bit. Just tug around a bit. You can see that now my top lays over the pants, so that I no longer have the problem. This avatar obviously doesn't have the blue dots, so I usually only do this at the end. And now I can keep going and make sure that my clothing doesn't clash with the pants. Right, what's next? What is also pretty cool, what I can do is I can turn on elastic. So I can click one of these lines, and here in this corner you can see I can put elastic on or off. And if I put this down, then it literally, I've got to do it for both the front pieces as well, so you can see. It goes elastic here, so you'll see when I pull it up it's a bit more elastic. And if I make this top wider, just, I'm overdoing this a bit so you can see the difference. You can see it's like a wide top, but it is elastic at the bottom now. And then what I can do is I could click this part, and what I like to play around with is pressure. So pressure makes it blow up or go really close to the body. So I can put the pressure up a bit, let's say 4, and then I can put the pressure up also on this piece, say also 4, and have a puffy vest, I guess. So there are some interesting things you can do. And also what's pretty cool is if you go here to materials, piping, what you can do is everywhere there's lines you can make piping. So I could make my piping start there and go up here, and go further up here, and I can double click and make it end there. So now I can't really see it because it's also purple. So undo that, and we'll use a new fabric type for piping, which is always a good idea, and do it again. So up here and up here, and what you can see now is I have a little piece of piping along here, which is sometimes a cool feature. Just highlight some lines. Okay, so that's pretty much basic in Marvelous Designer. If you sew wrong, you can click here, and you can click the pieces you've sewn together and just delete them. And I will now show you something I've done before, so that we can get rid of this horrible coat thing. Right. So for this tutorial I made this simple, outwear puffy coat. As you can see, I've used elastic to make the bottoms. Here elastic and puffed it up a bit. I've added piping here so that I can have what looks like a zipper. And I've added a hood, so the hood looks like this. So literally I make a triangle, and then I curve it inwards and curve it outwards. If you have trouble figuring out what all these pieces need to look like, it's often good to just look at other people's clothes and see what their UV looks like. So yeah, this is my coat, and I've decided I want to put some pockets here and a pocket here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on that part, which is this part here. I'm going to make a new fabric type, and instead of drawing a whole new object, I'm going to draw an internal object. So there are these 3 here. So this is also to make holes in something. So I'm going to do my internal object, and I'm going to do a square, and I'm just going to make a random square pocket here. Right, don't like that, that's too far down. Maybe here, maybe a bit more in, or maybe not quite as wide. Right, this should do. That's going to be my pocket. As you can see, it's just a line at the moment. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy as pattern. And if I then paste, you'll see I have it as an actual piece. So wherever it went, over here. You can ignore me making this smaller, it's only because I converted this from adult size. But that's theoretically how you convert it in ND. You can click the fabric pieces and shrink them. Right, so now I've got this here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the bottom to here and the sides to my coat, and if I then play, it's going to attach. Right, to make my pocket open up a bit more, I'm going to make my fabric thing just a slight bit wider than the actual thing. Maybe have to, yeah. Okay, so now I've got a pocket. Now I need the same on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to copy, and I'm going to do mirror paste. So it's, well, it's a square, so it doesn't really matter, but yeah, do the same thing here. Copy, mirror paste, just in case my square isn't that square. And again, sew it on. Play, should have the other pocket coming. Yeah, very slowly, and move it. Right, now these look okay, but sometimes it can be that your second layer, because it's like the layer on top, clips through the first layer. So just in case, I'm going to click on here again, and I'm going to say it's layer 1, so that I make sure it lays on top of the coat and not underneath it. Okay, so now my little coat has little pockets, and maybe I want to close my pockets with a button, just to show you how this works. So to make buttons, I'm going to make a circle where my button is going to be sewn. So maybe here, have my button in the middle. That's where it's going to be sewn on there, and then I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to make it around about in the middle of this here. And then these are the two places where the button sews together. I'm also going to make the button, so I'm going to copy this as pattern, paste to make the actual button part. And now I need to sew all these pieces together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this layer 2 first of all, because it's on top of the pocket, which is on top of the coat. And then I'm just simply going to say, sew my button to the sewing circle I made here. Alright. And to make this coat part sew to here, I'm just going to sew the sewing circle again to this. Right, this time I'm actually going to move it over so that it's not so far away. Again, because I converted it, I need to make this 70% so it's not so huge. This one's already. Okay, now you can see I get like a button sewn, and it's only sewn in that little button part. So there we go. I have a tiny little button, and you can see that the white lays outside of the yellow because I put it as layer 2. So there we go. Got my little button. Now I'm just gonna copy, do this same thing for the other side. There we go, sew it up again. Okay, now what I can do is I can click on the fabric type that's white here, and I can go here to texture and press these 4 dots, and I can open a texture. So I'm going to go to my textures. I'm just going to pick a random one. Let's go with this red. And then you can see that I now have a red texture on it, and it kind of looks a bit more like piece of clothing. So yeah, as I can see, it's clipping a bit here, so I'm just gonna pull that a bit, see if I can stop it doing that. No. There we go. You can see now I've got my little coat with my little buttons and my pockets. And when I'm done, what I'm going to do is, obviously I'm going to save it. So first I'm going to say save project, which I've already saved. What I usually do is, if I show you, save as project, I make little project files for each one. So I'm just going to call this one puff, and then I save it in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say file, export as object. Also going to save it under puff, and I just call it puff1. And this box comes up. So in this box, what you need to make sure is that select all avatars is not ticked. This is on unweld, this is on thin, this is on N. And if all that's correct, you can press OK, and it'll be saved. So that's pretty much just a really short MD tutorial. I'm not going to do much more on this because there's so many tutorials online. And the next part will continue on. Okay, thank you.